There is a profound, almost silent shift that happens in a man's life as he crosses the threshold of his late 40s and steps into his 50s. It does not happen overnight. It is a slow, creeping shadow that quietly steals the morning sun. You open your eyes, and instead of that sharp electric surge of readiness that used to define your younger years, you are met with a heavy, leaden exhaustion. The engine simply refuses to turn over. I am Dr. Patrick Miller, and in my decades of clinical practice as a medical specialist, I have sat across the desk from thousands of men who all describe this exact same morning reality. They tell me about the sheer physical pain of pulling the covers back, the dragging of their feet across the floorboards, and the immediate, desperate dependency on 2 or 3 dark, strong cups of coffee just to feel a fraction of their former humanity. But beyond the brain fog and the lethargy, there is a deeper, more private pain that men carry into my office. It is the hardest thing for them to confess, usually spoken in a lowered voice, eyes fixed on the floor, the total absence of morning vigor and the vanishing of spontaneous erections. For a man, waking up without that biological marker of vitality is devastating. It feels like a silent alarm bell signaling the end of his prime. The tragedy is that society, the media, and even many of my colleagues in the medical establishment wave their hands dismissively and tell these men that this is just what getting older looks like. They say it is just the natural course of aging. But as a specialist who has spent a lifetime studying the complex architecture of the male body, I can tell you with absolute certainty that this is not just aging. It is a tragic, yet reversible, mechanical failure. To understand how to fix this, we have to stop blaming testosterone and stop blaming the calendar. The morning failure you are experiencing is rooted in a phenomenon I call vascular asphyxia. Let me explain what happens inside your body when the lights go out. During the night, as you enter deep sleep, your breathing slows down, your heart rate drops, and your body enters a state of deep conservation. In a healthy, youthful system, the microscopic inner lining of your blood vessels, known as the endothelium, constantly produces a miracle molecule called nitric oxide. This gas keeps your veins relaxed, wide open and flexible. But as men age, endothelial function begins to stutter. By the time you reach your 50s, your body's natural production of nitric oxide during the night plummets to its absolute lowest point. Without this vital molecule keeping the pathways open, your veins become stiff, narrow and rigid, much like old weathered garden hoses left out in the winter cold. This means that throughout the night and in those crucial early hours of the morning, blood simply cannot flow. Without blood flow, there is no oxygen delivery. Without oxygen, your brain remains in a state of suffocating fog, your muscles feel like lead, and your intimate organs remain entirely dormant. Your body is practically choking from the inside out, starved of the very lifeblood it needs to wake up and function. But there is a biological key to unlocking this trap, a natural intervention that overrides this nocturnal shutdown. In my clinical practice, I introduce my patients to a morning habit that we simply refer to as the red juice. Now, to be clear, this is not a magical potion or a superficial energy drink. It is a highly specific, scientifically validated intervention designed to rescue the cardiovascular system. The core of this habit is a dense, concentrated dose of beetroot juice, combined meticulously with a powerful amino acid called L-Citrulline. The science behind this combination is absolutely fascinating. Beetroots are grown deep in the earth, and as a result, they are one of nature's most abundant sources of pure dietary nitrates. When a mature man drinks this concentrated red juice first thing in the morning, a remarkable biochemical reaction occurs. The friendly bacteria on your tongue instantly convert these dietary nitrates into nitrites. As they travel down into your acidic stomach and enter your bloodstream, they undergo a final transformation, erupting into a massive system-wide explosion of nitric oxide. It is the physiological equivalent of taking a high-pressure hose and unclogging rusty, constricted pipes. The rigid veins are forced to suddenly relax and expand. But the beetroot alone is a short-term fix. It metabolizes too quickly. That is exactly why the L-Citrulline is introduced into the protocol. L-Citrulline acts as a biological time-release mechanism. Once inside the body, it converts into L-arginine, creating a continuous, self-recycling loop that forces the endothelium to keep producing nitric oxide for hours on end. By consuming this specific combination every morning, you are manually forcing your blood vessels to dilate, allowing a rushing river of oxygen and nutrient-rich blood to flood your brain, your heart, and your intimate organs. If you want to dive deeper into this, I put together a guide, located in the first link of the description, for anyone interested in learning and discovering how mature men are supporting healthy blood flow and vitality naturally, without relying on artificial solutions. The transformation this simple protocol triggers is nothing short of profound. I want to share the story of a patient of mine named Thomas. Thomas was 54 years old, a highly successful architect, a devoted husband, and a man who sat in my office completely broken. He described his mornings as wading through thick mud. He was relying on chemical stimulants just to get through his workday, and his marriage was suffering deeply because his physical vitality had entirely evaporated. He believed his life as an active, potent man was simply over. I asked Thomas to suspend his disbelief and commit entirely to the red juice morning habit. The progression of his recovery was visceral and deeply documented. Within the very first week, Thomas reported that the heavy, suffocating brain fog that usually plagued his mornings had simply evaporated. By the end of the second week, the afternoon crashes were gone. He was experiencing a clean, sustained energy that carried him from dawn until dusk, but it was during the third week that the most shocking transformation occurred. Thomas woke up one morning and experienced the undeniable, robust return of his morning vitality, a mechanical responsiveness he honestly thought he had lost forever to the hands of time. He was not relying on any artificial chemical pills or dangerous synthetic drugs. He had simply given his body the exact biological fuel it needed to rebuild its own internal infrastructure. And Thomas is far from an isolated case. In my clinical files, there is a mountain of social proof from men who have reclaimed their lives using this exact method. Men like Richard, a 62-year-old former athlete who told me he felt his body was rusting from the inside out. He was terrified of the side effects of conventional pharmaceutical interventions for his intimate health. Within a month of adopting the beetroot and L-Citrulline protocol, Richard reported a level of stamina and spontaneous blood flow he hadn't experienced since his late 30s. Then there is Michael, 58, who wrote to me an incredibly emotional letter because he was finally able to feel physically present, confident, and highly capable in his marriage again. His wife noticed the difference not just in his physical performance, but in the vibrant color of his skin, his mood, and his endless daily energy. These men recognized that their bodies were not failing because they were flawed. They were failing because they were biologically starved. When men hear these stories, a light bulb goes on. They finally see themselves in Thomas, in Richard, and in Michael. They realize that the exhaustion and the physical decline they have been silently suffering through are not a life sentence. They realize they have the power to change the narrative. As a medical professional, my ultimate goal is to strip away the myths that have kept men feeling helpless about their own aging process. I want you to understand that the male body is a magnificent, resilient machine. It was intricately designed by nature to remain strong, capable, and highly responsive at any age, provided the internal pathways are kept free and unobstructed. You do not have to accept chronic fatigue, vascular stiffness, and the loss of your physical manhood as your destiny. You have the biological tools available to clear the blockages, to flood your system with life-giving oxygen, and to reignite the powerful internal engine that defines your vitality. You can rebuild your blood flow from the ground up, starting tomorrow morning. For the exact steps and the complete morning routine, check out the guide in the first link of the description. For anyone interested in learning and discovering how mature men are supporting healthy blood flow and vitality naturally without relying on artificial solutions, I strongly encourage you to take this knowledge and apply it to your own life. Do not let another morning pass where you feel like a passenger in a failing vehicle. Take control of your biology. If this message resonated with you, if you found value and hope in the science we uncovered today, I invite you to subscribe to this channel. By subscribing, you ensure that you won't miss out on the continuous journey we are taking together, uncovering the raw, unfiltered truth about men's health, longevity, and natural vitality in our future videos. Your body is waiting to be awakened. It is time to let the blood flow again.